It's a pleasure to welcome you to Newsnight, where we speak to major league players in Nigeria's democracy and the issues generated from its drive for growth and development. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. The war against corruption is a central challenge of Nigeria's development. How has it been fought so far? Are there better ways to fight it? How can the nation address some of its other challenges, particularly security? My guest is former Army Chief of Operations, Training and Plans, and now Secretary General of the Pan-African Research and Policy Group, retired Major-General Ishola Williams. General Williams, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You have an unusual story. Most Nigerians alive today don't know your story. You left the Nigerian Army in 1993. Probably one of very few officers ever to just resign your commission and leave. Why?
Very interesting question. And maybe in the environment in which we are, that's why you're asking this sort of question.
Yes.
But in other climes of people we copy or we adopted their system, when you get to a stage in your career, whether you're, so especially in government, and you see things that you think are not right, if you cannot change it, the best thing to step aside, to step out, you know. Because if you don't, you now become part and parcel of the problem instead of solution. And then when you step out, you then find a way of how you can at least create a situation in which that sort of situation will never happen again. Okay. Or at least be part of the solution to make sure that that situation does not happen again. And I felt at that time that since an attempt had been made, not by only me, by a few other officers who were very much concerned about the coup d'etat in 1993 and about the 1993 elections. And we saw that we couldn't do anything about it. Some of them decided, all of them decided to stay, even though they were not comfortable with the situation. I just couldn't stay. I just couldn't stay for any reason. The second thing is this, is that whenever a coup happens, those who are involved in the coup tend to take over positions in military and in the political government. You know, the government. And if they are your juniors, it becomes awkward for you to be serving your junior. It is not part of the military culture. And therefore, for you to retain that culture, the best thing is also to step aside, no matter what other position you are going to be given, whether it's in government, whether it's in the military itself. And therefore, there was a need to set a standard, you know. And one or two officers have set that standard, you know, before. And I thought that was a very good example to follow. At that time, in my career, and having been in the military for 30 years at that time, and looking at all the military regimes, and asking myself, in comparison with the military regime that I've seen in Latin America and in Asia, what has Nigeria benefited from military regime? And I discovered that in no way can we compare. Because if you go to Brazil, Chile, and other places, and you see, and some countries in Asia and things like that, and you see what the military regimes have done, it is something that they can be proud of, except for the human rights violation in those regimes. Apart from that, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of development, in terms of development in science and technology, Because look at South Korea, for example. Look at Brazil. They all went through military regime. But there are some few things the military regime left that are still holding to today. Okay, but when you look at the case of Nigeria, corruption and so many other things that you cannot be proud of, really. And you could see that in spite of all the money that Nigeria has earned over this period of time, what can we show for it? What can we show for it?
But at that point in time, and I guess we're referring to November 1993, and that was the coup that brought General Sani Abacha to power.
Yes.
The reports are that when you indicated your opposition, your belief was that it was immoral, given the antecedents which you've described, for the military to then step in yet again. That as head of state, General Abacha wrote you to say, please don't resign your commission. This is something that can be discussed and so on.
Yeah. Some senior officers came to me, and but the simple question was this. I am against the military coming to take over the political control of this country because it was illegitimate. People do not understand the importance of legitimacy over legality. If you win an election and the election is rigged all over, yes, you won legally, but you are not a legitimate choice of the people. In fact, that was what Jimmy Carter was saying when he came for the 1999 election in which General Obasanjo won. And his group saw so many this thing, which he complained about at that time. To him, the election was illegitimate. But in Nigeria, we don't understand the difference. We don't understand the difference. Some people do, but those people just keep quiet. And therefore, you could see the trend in our system, okay, that every time we talk about legal, but we don't talk about legitimacy. And I believe at that particular time, there was no need for anybody in his logical and consequential belief to say that there was a need for General Abacha's coup. There was no need at all for anybody to come in at that time. We should have taken that historic election because it was not only legal but also legitimate. That was the point. And you had a situation in which two Muslim gentlemen were contesting the election. And the election all over Nigeria because of Chief Abela's popularity. Okay. I don't think the reason why the military should take over. It was a very big mistake. Until today, what are we saying? With General Abacha and the amount of money that he took abroad, what was the central bank doing? With that amount of money leaving the country, what was our central bank doing? We haven't got men of conscience in this country who are holding positions. Most of them are crooks, I'm telling you. Most of them are crooks who are holding positions today.
The current situation. When you left the army, of course, as you pointed out, you decided to see what it was that was possible to do to correct the situation that made you leave the army.
Yes.
And you focused on transparency, corruption, policy, and so on. Since then, this particular government that is in power today has made this corruption thing, transparency and accountability, one of its three major objectives. Other governments before it have said they're fighting corruption and that they've been fighting corruption. But as someone who has made this like his life's work, is that true? Can you see incremental gains in the war against corruption, in the war to ensuring transparency and accountability across our society?
Yeah, I would say to a certain extent that the coming in of the president I sort of created a situation in which the issue of dealing with corrupt practices and things like that have been taken more seriously compared to the regime that he replaced. Okay. But what's interesting about the whole thing is that, you know, when they say in Nigeria that when a fish gets rotten, it starts getting rotten from the head. But Nigerian situation is very interesting. Jan Buhari, everybody says, is not corrupt. He's not involved in any deal. He's not involved in any scam. Okay. But the deals and the scams are still going on, as we know. So in the Nigeria's case, the head of the fish is not rotting, but the body is still rotting. Okay? That means there's something that ought to be done that has not yet been done. Secondly, he has empowered really the ICPC, especially with the new head there now, also Osanoye, and Magu in the FCC. He has really empowered them. But what's also happening is this is that the president, continues to claim that no matter which party you belong to, once you are caught, you are going to be dealt with. Okay. But the point is this is that if APC chairman Shomole made two statements that let everybody come to APC and their sins be forgiven. He said so openly. And that's why I call APC Alliance of Political Crooks. That's the meaning of APC to me. Because if you can say people come to APC. And second thing is this is that he was so bold enough to say that you can't win an election in Nigeria without rigging. And you belong to that sort of party. That's very serious. And what we then see is this is that our system, and now after so many years that we have been asking for special court for anti-corruption cases, is now pushing the National Assembly to do that. And let's hope hopefully that he'll be able to do that. But then, apart from the institutions that are dealing with corruption, there are other basic institutions that he needs to empower and empower now.
Such as?
The Auditor General. Many Nigerians don't think about Auditor General. But ask anybody, what is the need of auditing a company, for example? Ask a chairman of any company. And not only for knowing how you have done the accounts of the branch or the this thing like that, but also performance auditing. Taxpayers' money, you put it on a project. How have you performed? Nobody cares about auditor. The auditors are supposed to be doing auditing every year. Release the report to the public. Take it to the Public Accounts Committee. Capital Account Committee will query those MDAs who have not used the taxpayers' money properly. And that's what ICPC is doing with senators and members of the House now for their constituency project. That is the job of the Auditor General. But nobody takes Auditor General very seriously. Two, Auditor General is supposed to be very, very independent. Very independent of his own. With his own commission and everything. His own staff. And they determine their own pay and things like that.
So that they're not susceptible to any kind of inducements.
But today, the auditors themselves are corrupt because of the situation in which they find themselves. And they are, in some cases, they are so far behind in many years. And that's at the federal level. At the state level, forget it. I'm not sure some states have been audited for the past 10 years. So if you don't have that sort of institution, empowered, working properly, funded, well paid, what corruption are you fighting? Second word, fiscal responsibility. There's a Fiscal Representative Commission. Who hears about them? Who hears about them? Now, you know, the president of Brazil was impeached under the Fiscal Responsibility Law. Why? He was borrowing money, using money, and they could see what she was doing with the money. But she did not comply with the law. They removed her. Nobody talking about fiscal responsibility here in Nigeria. So those institutions, then procurement. There's a procurement commission. Who is talking about that? Because it's the procurement commission we're working. See all these scandals about contracts and things like that, both at home and abroad. How could they happen? How could it happen? So look at those three institutions. So continue to use ICPC and things like that. It's like benediction after mass. You know, it's a disease has reached a stage in which you are not looking for doctors to be able to call. They tell you that it's too late. That's the situation we are getting to. And that's why the whole thing is so pandemic. And what happens is this is that, yes, ICPC, ADC, what do they end up with? They end up in the court. The court is overloaded, you see. So you find some people who have been in court for the past 10 years.
Or more in some cases.
Or more. Whereas this is something that should deal with within a few months of the case coming up. In addition to that, there's one Dr. Ubo, who have been coming up with reports and is in court now with the governor of Central Bank. It will be interesting to see how that case will end. Okay, but that gentleman, many people have been trying to suppress him or keep his voices down. But you could have expected that ICPC and this like that will invite him and said, what is your story really? Let's work together. Okay, they tried to whistleblower, the whole thing had died down. The whole thing had died down. They gave some money to some few people who have, the others have refused to. Because really, too, to a certain extent, some of the agencies too are also corrupt. Also corrupt. Those who are working there are also corrupt. And they can let people know when they are going to be in trouble or something like that because of the Nigerian system. Okay.
But you have worked on this for so long. So I guess maybe the question at this point is to say, if many of these key institutions have all these challenges and have this, how do we then go about it? Because it seems as if there's a consensus that we need to fight this. We need to fight corruption. We need to deal with it, minimize it, if not eradicate it. But there is discord over the methodology.
The issue is this is that everybody has got to accept one thing. The civil service is the engine of development of any country. If the civil service is corrupt, many suggestions have been made, even since 2015. But there are some people, including the Attorney General, who don't want the status quo to change. Example, when you go to many countries, even FACO countries, they have what they call police judiciary. Police judiciary is like criminal investigation
department.
Independent. So first of all, you need to divide the police into 3 separate organizations, completely separate organizations. One, this crime intelligence and investigation department, with a whole set of people there. They don't wear uniform, they have a DG. Okay.
We used to have CID here.
Yes. They merge all of them together. So separate them now with its own DG. That police now will now be working. In South Africa, they have what they call public prosecutor. Now, that public prosecutor is independent of the executive and report directly to their parliament. It's totally independent. Right now, it was the public prosecutor who put Zuma and investigated Zuma and the corruption case. The present one now is investigating the president for campaign finance. Okay, you need in Latin American countries and other countries, you have an independent prosecutor general who is independent of the Minister of Justice. So in the Ministry of Justice is like Solicitor General, advising the government on legal issues, not to prosecute. Here, we copy from the old Britain. Even to a certain extent, the British have separated them too. They have an Attorney General, they also have a Solicitor General who advises the government on legal issues. Okay, so that's what we need. Those are the changes that are necessary. But they have refused to do it. At one time, they said they were going to do it. They recruited about young lawyers. They brought somebody from UK to train them in prosecution. What has happened to this group of young people? They just disappeared very quietly. Very quietly. Okay, so there are a few things that could be done, that ought to have been done, but people have refused to do them. And empowering all these institutions that I'm talking about, why are they not empowering them? What are they doing? Now, look at revenue mobilization and something from the, yes, that one. Which revenue are they mobilizing? Which revenue are they mobilizing? How are they sharing it? So if they are doing it properly, how could a senator be earning that amount of money and House of Representatives? How? They are not the servants of the people. Oh. People elect them, and they are earning so much. How can a country like Nigeria have highest paid senators in the world? Highest paid members of the rep in Senegal, they had to cancel the Senate.
Well, some of the senators, including the ones I have spoken to on this program, indicate that what people are mistaking for their salaries are actually overheads that they use to run their office, and that is applicable worldwide. In fact, Senator Abaribe pointed out former President Barack Obama's own to say that he earns only $174,000 as salary, but his overhead for his office, for running his office, is more than $4 million.
Yes, but what does he do with that $4 million? Do you know that? You should have told them one thing. In Nigeria, governors and presidents, they don't feed themselves. So. They are fed by taxpayers' money. The clothes they wear, the suit they wear, the barbaric guide, they are bought from taxpayers' money. Every week, or maybe monthly, they carry a set of clothes to them. They don't wear one set of clothes twice. They don't. All those things, from the shoes up, they are paid for. Obama buys his own suit. The President of the United States buys his own dresses. He feeds himself. The only thing that happens is this, is that when a visiting head of state is visiting, and there's a state dinner, the American government pays for the state dinner. But for every day, for himself and his family, so can you imagine the governor of Lagos State feeding himself? If the governor of Lagos State invites you, he has to pay for you to be fed. But today, you go to governor of Lagos State, it's taxpayers' money that you use in feeding you. So don't mind them telling you all that story. Two, if Obama uses the U.S. presidential jet privately, he pays. If he goes on campaign fund for it, he pays. It doesn't happen in Nigeria. If his wife carries the plane for something that is private or non-official, she will pay. They tell you all sorts of nonsensical stories and be comparing themselves with the United States. How can Nigeria be comparing itself to the United States? But I do not blame them, because right from the word go, we copied a constitution that is corruption-inducing.
Which brings me to the question that the problems seem to be also institutional, General. I remember reading where you were quoted as saying that even when you were in the army and you were in charge of research and development for more than 3 years, you made several proposals, including local manufacture of uniforms, purchase of development of weapons and equipment.
Which are coming to now.
But that each of those ideas got killed systematically. You
Correct.
couldn't lay your finger on exactly who killed it, but they got killed by the system.
Oh,
What
no,
you
no,
said now is that it seems as if it's a systemic problem. So how do we address that systemic problem?
No, that's why I'm saying that the whole thing is constitutional. The constitution is corruption-inducing, it's conflict-inducing. Tell me, sir, where in the world do you find a federal system in which the governor of a state will come to the capital of that country, collect a check of money, go back, next month it will come, and nobody asking, what did you spend the one I gave you last month? Tell me what country in the world that you know. Tell me. And you have a constitution like that? Crazy. It's just simply crazy. And we all keeping quiet. And we think this is amending court. No. All the restructuring they're talking about is all nonsense.
You mean even the restructuring?
It's nonsense because you just amend the constitution, do it properly, you don't need to restructure anything.
How do we amend the constitution? What would you like to see amended?
First of all, you have to do what Niger Delta people have been fighting for, resource control. Remember, look at the 1963 Constitution. What did he say? 50% of any resource that you have, gold, oil, or anything that you have, you take 50%. You give 50% to the rest of the federal government. Today, the money comes to the federal government starts sharing. And then says, because you have some resources, we'll give you 13% extra. No. So what is best is that let the state control all the resources that they have and agree constitutionally what percentage they should give to the federal government. The president had recently a meeting with the speakers of the State House of Assembly. What did they tell him? Reduce the numbers of things on the exclusive list now. Devolve them. We can do them at the state. An example, I was watching the TV, one of the headlines they brought was that federal government is going to plant 25 million trees in Nigeria. What is the business of federal government going to plant trees? Local government can plant trees. So you sit down at the federal level. See also, federal government is getting federal government universities all over the place. Is there any need? When the states are creating too, yeah, our children want to go to universities, but should they be going to secondary schools called universities? And we continue to complain that the quality is poor. So how do you have? It has to happen. We are gradually becoming like India, where they have so many universities and they are graduates. So people come and pick and choose. And today, private universities are convenient at the best. So.
But most people can afford to go there.
Exactly. But the point is this is that what federal government should have done is this is that they created TED fund, allowed the state to create the universities, and TED fund will finance the state universities as they are doing now. And then what will happen is this is that in the French system, they have what they call the grandes écoles. These grandes écoles are specialized universities in which you only do graduate studies. So even if your background is a bit poor, you come to graduate studies, it will improve. But that's what the federal government will maintain. So you have about 6 zonal federal institutes of agriculture. And those of agriculture are top. People do exams to go into those federal institutions, okay? But you know when they go there, they come out tops. That's why you see in India, they have what they call Indian Institute of Technology. There are about 5 of them. Every year, people from all over Europe, America go there to go and recruit Indians. They go there to go and recruit Indians because they are tops. And these are Indian universities. And you know what India did? India called Germany, Russia, France, and everybody to set up one of these institutes. Run it for a period of 5 to 10 years. They send their own people to those institutions that are helping them to run. Those people packed up after 10 years, and I'm telling you, they are still maintaining the standard up to today. And they also have about 3 or 4 Institute of Management Studies. Top everywhere in the world. People are going there to recruit. They are going there to recruit. So there are so many things we could do,
Because of our time, General, let me take you to something else in which you have spent quite a lot of time. Security. Earlier in the interview, you mentioned you were in the army for 30 years.
Yes.
Today, right across the country, we are faced with all kinds of challenges, from kidnapping to armed robbery. Some of them are older than others. New ones have been joined in to some of those security challenges. Now, they seem very difficult to tackle because different things are happening in different places. And then some would argue that politics has been introduced into some of them. For example, the issue between the herdsmen and the farmers. Just this morning as I was coming, there was an argument. There was an altercation between some herders and a few motorists who were trying to pass and so on. And that's right here in Lagos. So I'm just wondering, in terms of our security challenges, first, are you surprised that we are still facing such basic challenges? And secondly, how do we go about tackling them from your own perspective?
Again, since the British left us, we have never do a strategic review of our whole security system and infrastructure. We have never, since the British left. The British left off with a police, Inspector General of Police, is still like that. And somebody will sit there in Abuja and say it's an Inspector General of Police, and he wants to deal with crime in Alkali village in Yobe. It's height of tomfoolery. It's height of tomfoolery. The British that we copied from have changed a long time ago. Have changed a long time ago. There's no federal police in UK like, none. They are county police. There's no federal police in the United States. In South Africa, they have a civil system. And if you go to Pretoria in South Africa, there's Pretoria police. Therefore, you can only prevent crime or deter crime at local level. Not the person from Abuja. What has happened also is that the police is recruiting people for community policing. How can I sit there in Abuja be recruiting community police for communities? Therefore, first of all, there's a need for a strategic review of our whole security system. There's a need to do that. Having said that, the second thing also is that police is the leading element for safety, I will call it. And what should not happen is that you divide the police into three. Like I've said before, you have the criminal investigation,
yes, the CID,
with a director general. Non-uniformed people, but trained in that specialty. You have the mobile police with their own director general. They are a paramilitary force. And you train some of them up to what you call commando level, as they have in India, for example. You know, in India, they have counterinsurgency too in India. It has been there since the 1940s. The two ways they solve the problem with the constitution and with the state commando police. So the army is not involved, the federal police is not involved. It's the state that are fighting counterinsurgency. So when they get to a state, they will ask the people who are fighting them, what do you want? We want a state of our own or things like that. They have a permanent constitutional commission, a permanent one in India. So once issues like that come up, they take it up, pass it on to General Assembly, to National Assembly, and that's all. So constitutionally, that is taken care of, and that will stop. If those who don't want to stop, they deal with the state police, commando police. The army never goes in at all. Okay, so if you don't have a paramilitary, like the mobile police we have, because why do they wear a separate uniform, a different uniform? Why do they carry guns? It's because they are paramilitary. All right, and they should be able to do with that stuff, issue of counterterrorism and so forth. And therefore, to be able to back up the army, when they cannot deal with the situation anymore, like the case of the Northeast. They wanted to train some of them. They recruited them. Many of them ran away from Aduke. You can't blame them. Okay, but that's what, it should be a separate force of its own. Okay, you don't have an Inspector General of Police. What does he do? standards, training, and evaluation of state and local government police so that we have the same standard of policing all over Nigeria. He does not command them, but he ensures that they are normal standards. Inspect their training schools and make sure that this, and already we have so many training schools that they can hand over to the state right now. But what's happening is this is that they are just recruiting. Recently, they were asking them to account for 81,000 people who they put on the payroll they cannot account for. So there are so many good policemen, but the Major-General Police continue to tell you we haven't got enough men. No. Great state police, great local government police, there will be no problem of knowing whether men are there. And what happens is this is that you retrieve people from the local government, only from that local government. They stay there throughout their career. They don't go anywhere. They don't have any barracks. They stay with the people. So won't you be able to improve on crime detection? And the same thing with the state police.
Now, there seem to be a lot of interests involved in all these things, General. Because as you're talking, I seem to recollect that at the time the Nigerian Army had to be brought in, to the most recent ones. The Nigerian Army has always been brought in when particular security challenges go beyond what the traditional police can handle. For example, in 1964, you had them with the thief crisis. And since then, we have had them, the Matsasine issue in 1980 and so on. Now, again now, you mentioned the Northeast. The Army had to be brought in. As at the last time I spoke to the Chief of Army Plans and Operations, he said the Army was operating in 32 states of the Federation. Of course, the logical question would then be, are they not overstretched since their primary duty is territorial integrity safeguard? Now, from what you've said, it doesn't appear as if you agree that the Nigerian Army should have been involved in the first place.
The point is this is that territorial integrity is different from the safety, internal safety and security. And that's the point, okay? You have a military defense. In fact, some people have scrapped defense. Because the point is this is that who is coming to attack Nigeria? Who are you defending Nigeria against? Most of the Boko Haram people, they are Kanuri people. And where do you find Kanuri people? Borno and Chad, Niger, and Cameroon. But majority of the Kanuri people in West Africa are in Borno State, with the Shehu of Borno as the leader. So then, ask yourself, if you are in a situation in which you have to find your own people for your territorial integrity, something is wrong. Something is wrong. And if you are in a situation in which the traditional leader of that area cannot control that, then something is wrong. But nobody asks also basic questions, you know. The army just keeps fighting. It's like the case of Niger Delta. What are you fighting for in the Niger Delta? Everybody agrees that there's no development in Niger Delta. Apart from the blame you can put on their governors and local governors who are all crooks and corrupt people, okay? But what is Nigeria doing there? It's an impossible problem. You cannot solve the problem. And when you then come to the case of Boko Haram is not interested in your territorial integrity. Boko Haram is interested in Borno State.
Why do you say that?
Where have they gone to?
At some point, they were in Adamawa, they were in Yobe, they were in Borno.
They are just cutting around. They want to capture Maiduguri.
Is there a strategic advantage in that?
That's what they're interested in. At the present moment, that's what they're interested in. All those Adamawa and things like that, they just go there once in a while, looking for food and everything. But every time you see them, they always attempt to capture Maiduguri. They always attempt to capture Maiduguri. And what has the state governor done? The state governor has recruited people, some Malams from Saudi Arabia, to be praying, because the army did a workshop on spiritual warfare. I've never had any stupid thing like that before in my life, in any army. Holding a workshop on spiritual warfare. And then the governor going to recruit Malams in Saudi Arabia to be praying for them to be decent. Then, when you then look at other civil defense and security company, for example, they are supposed to protect your infrastructure. Pipelines, for example. But they are busting pipelines over the place. So, you see the civil defense, they are confused, they don't even know what to do. Apart from protecting pipelines, they protect strategic buildings. So you don't need the army, you don't need the police to protect all those buildings. And thirdly, disaster and emergencies. That's what they are created for. And they protect IDPs and so on and so forth. But are they using them for that? So what do you find in Nigeria? Army is protecting IDPs, police protecting IDPs, whereas it is there. And really, you don't even need to create NEMA if you have civil defense. That is their job, emergencies and disasters. So you create organization and you create confusion, and you are not able to coordinate them to make sure that everybody is following his own mandate. That's what I'm telling you, there's no strategy review. It appears that we are not thinkers at all, especially at the political level.
Does that mean you would also think that the attempt or the drive, there's an operation called Operation Positive Identification, under which Nigerians across the country are supposed to be prepared with their identifications so that aliens and illegal aliens and so on can be weeded out. Those who have managed to cross the border into Nigeria can be weeded out. That operation was supposed to be spearheaded by the army, which was in any case already doing more or less the same thing in the Northeast.
But which is also very funny. So you then ask yourself, what is the job of the immigration? You have a whole immigration who are always recruiting people too. Now, what people do not understand is that in terms of national security, first of all, you have the safety. That is, people in communities can go about their problems, without fear or anything. That is your number one priority. That is the job of local government police and the state police. Once you can have that, that is the level you need to make people security conscious. Now, if that one is working, when they are aliens, they will know that the army does not need to get involved. Two, there is this stupid notion all over the world that it's always strangers who is always causing, who is always creating crime. It's a stupid notion. And studies and studies and studies are proving that it is not true. Most people, immigrants who come to a country, they are looking for better life, not to go and commit crimes. Importantly, there's no way you can commit a crime without the help of the indigene. No way. Because as soon as you commit a crime, you'll be caught by the indigenes. Okay? So it's a stupid notion altogether. And for the army to get involved in that, I was totally, totally surprised. Are we thinking at all? Are there people who are thinking in this country who are in position?
You talk about a better life, General, and one of the measures the government has taken, controversial as it is to close the country's borders. That's been on for quite a bit now, and the indications are that it will be on for quite a bit, because one of the things that the government has said is that it is going to insist on some conditions being met by our neighbors before it reopens the borders, because a lot of what is being done by those neighbors amounts to economic sabotage of the country. Do you agree?
Yeah, but you see, they also said about security, about arms coming in.
Indeed.
Again, and they laugh. Serious laugh.
Why?
You know why? Recently, Amosun, when he was handing over, he left 1,000 AK-47 or how many, and millions of rounds of ammunition. What is the governor doing? Who gave him license to import? A governor. Two, the governor of Zamfara said he's going to arrest his predecessor for bringing guns into the country. Before this thing, some armed robbers were caught in Kaduna. You know what they said? They said arms were being dropped by helicopters into the forest for them. And I do know that many arms have come in through the port.
Yeah, some of those have been intercepted by customs.
Exactly. So, are you sure that they've intercepted all of them?
No, but General, the one that has to do with our neighbors not cooperating to safeguard our own economic integrity.
No, that is not true. Which neighbor? See,
Benin Republic,
it's not
Togo.
Do you know that Benin Republic has no Boko Haram problem? Benin Republic has no Boko Haram problem, but they volunteered for multinational force. I'm telling you.
How about the economic part of it, General?
The economic part is this. You have what you call free trade across the border. Okay. Borderless trade. So if you have bilateral trade, what they have already introduced to check that is rules of origin. Okay. And the rules of origin means that the thing that got to be manufactured in Benin for it to cross the border free of tariff. But as you know, small Benin, what do they manufacture? Nothing. So they import most of these things. And we are particular about one commodity, rice. We are not Asians. Rice is not a staple food. So something is wrong with our taste, number one. Okay. And two, we have not been able to work out the rules of origin within the ECOWAS free trade regime. And that's what we need to concentrate on. How do you work on the rules of origin to be able to safeguard that? And after all, who stands to benefit more? Nigeria is a big country, benefits more because we can export a lot of our products to other parts of West Africa and to other parts of Africa. Okay, because, take for example, when Nigeria tried to export some products to EU rejected 47 of them that were not of good quality, that they can accept. So why don't you look at that? Why helping Benin and Co? Okay, and if you can then help Benin, for example, companies take their manufacturing factories to some other countries because it's cheaper there, doing business there is cheaper, and they have some favorable conditions. So Nigeria too, like Dangote is doing, is building cement factories all over Africa. Okay. Why can't some of our Nigerian businessmen do that all over West Africa? Okay. Because at one time or the other, how long are you going to close the border? How long? And while you have closed the border now, what solutions are you finding to that? And can you ever stop smuggling?
Well, we are told that at this point that the local manufacturers are benefiting at this point because...
To a certain extent, yes. But for how long? For how long will they do it? And secondly, too, how long will they be able to keep the price down? Because if you and me go to the market, we don't care where the product comes from. It's our pocket. It's our purchasing power that matters. So, and you know that anytime they said, okay, you pay 30,000 naira now, minimum wage. Be rest assured that as soon as they start paying, school fees will increase, downfall will increase, Okada will increase, everything will increase. So at the end of the day, what have you benefited? The food will also increase. Okay, but the one they bring from outside is cheaper. How come that the one they bring from outside is cheaper than the one we produce locally? That's the question we need to ask. And therefore, we are not producing competitive products for our market. And any sensible country know that, because the economists are confused now. The economists all over the world, they are confused. They are just wasting their time, you know. When you look at the country to talk about, Central Bank governor will tell you that he's supposed to be doing that price index and inflation index. It doesn't work. It's all like ordinary man in the street does not understand that. What the ordinary man in the street understands is that I go to the market, how much does the bag of rice cost? So if the one from Thailand costs less, what will you buy? Buy the one from Thailand. That's the point. So the point is this, is that can our people produce food or products that are affordable? So we don't even need to look at the one from outside. Okay. And secondly, too, every sensible country now, what they do is to be able to, why are people wanting to export to the United States? It's because there's a market there. It's because there's a market there. Okay, so can we create a market in which our products can satisfy that market? First and foremost. But if you cannot create a market in which your product can satisfy the needs of that market, what are you closing your border for?
General Williams, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much. That's Newsnight. Thanks for joining us. I am Ladi Akiri Goodbye.